In the heart of a quiet wildlife reserve, the first rays of morning sunlight painted the forest floor with soft streaks of gold. The air was fresh, filled with the earthy smell of wet soil and the faint scent of blooming flowers. Birds chirped gently, and the forest seemed calm, as if it had not yet woken up fully. But in the middle of this peaceful scene, a small, delicate sound broke the quietness. It was the unmistakable cry of a baby elephant, frightened and desperate. The little elephant had been wandering a bit farther from her herd than usual. She was curious, exploring the tall grasses and small streams, enjoying the morning air, when suddenly the ground beneath her gave way. She had stepped into a hidden mud pit, one that was almost invisible under the thin layer of dry leaves and twigs. The soft, sticky mud gripped her legs and began to pull her down slowly, making her tiny body wobble. She let out a loud, panicked cry, the sound echoing through the trees. It was a sound filled with fear, confusion, and the urgent need for help. Every step she took only made the mud cling tighter to her legs. She tried to pull one foot out, then the other, but the more she struggled, the deeper she sank. Her small trunk swung frantically, hitting the muddy walls of the pit, as if trying to find something solid to hold on to. She kicked and stomped with her little feet, but it only seemed to make the mud shift beneath her and pull her down further. The baby elephant's eyes were wide with panic, glistening with tears, and her tiny body shook with fear. The cries of the baby elephant did not go unnoticed. From a distance, her mother heard the sound. She had been grazing near a grove of trees, her ears twitching as she listened. The sharp, anxious calls of her calf sent a jolt of fear through her. Instantly, she knew something was wrong. She trumpeted loudly, a deep, resonant sound filled with worry, and began to run toward her baby as fast as her heavy legs could carry her. The soft earth beneath her feet made little noise compared to the urgency in her movements. Meanwhile, the baby elephant continued to struggle. Her tiny trunk flailed, hitting roots and stones as she tried to lift herself out of the mud. Each attempt made her more exhausted, and her cries grew louder and more desperate. It seemed like the mud pit would not let her go. The sound of her panic carried through the trees, drawing the attention of other animals nearby. Birds took flight, chirping nervously, and a few smaller animals peeked out from behind bushes, watching the scene unfold from a safe distance. The forest, usually calm and serene, now felt tense. The wind blew gently, rustling the leaves, but it could not soothe the frantic cries of the baby elephant. She was trapped, and she could feel herself sinking slowly. Her legs, still too weak to pull herself out completely, struggled against the sticky mud. Every movement required immense effort, and every attempt seemed to make the situation worse. She stamped her feet, tried to dig with her trunk, and even attempted to wriggle her small body from side to side, but the mud held her firm. Her mother reached the mud pit, running on legs that trembled with fear and urgency. She stopped at the edge, surveying the scene. Her eyes widened as she saw her little one stuck, her tiny body partially submerged in the thick, heavy mud. She let out another trumpet, louder this time, calling out in a mix of warning and reassurance. She approached carefully, testing the ground with her feet to avoid getting stuck herself. The sight of her baby trapped and struggling sent a pang of worry through her, and she knew she had to act quickly. The mother elephant lowered her massive head, her trunk reaching toward the baby. She tried to pull the calf out, wrapping her trunk gently around the smaller body, but the mud was heavy and relentless. The little elephant squealed, partly from fear and partly from the effort of trying to keep up with her mother's attempts. She was exhausted, her small body trembling, and her eyes darted around, searching for something, anything, to help her escape. The mud clung stubbornly to her legs, refusing to let her go. Time seemed to stretch endlessly. The forest remained silent, except for the cries of the baby elephant and the occasional calls of the mother. It was as if the whole world was holding its breath, waiting for what would happen next. The baby's struggles became slower, more desperate, and her calls more frantic. Her tiny trunk pounded the muddy walls of the pit, and her small feet sank deeper with every movement. She tried to balance herself, but the mud offered no support. She could feel the cold, sticky weight of it pulling her down, and panic surged through her tiny body. The mother elephant, sensing the danger, began to circle the pit, trying to find the best way to help her baby. She nudged the edges with her trunk, testing the ground, and then pressed her massive body against the side, hoping to create some leverage. She called out again, a deep, resonant trumpet that echoed across the trees. It was a call filled with urgency, love, and determination. She lowered her trunk again, tried to reach her calf, and the little one responded, lifting her head and stretching her trunk toward her mother. It was a small gesture, but it was filled with trust. As the baby elephant continued to struggle, exhaustion began to take its toll. Her small body was covered in mud, her legs shaking with effort, and her breathing was heavy and uneven. The panic in her eyes was clear, but so was her determination. She continued to push against the mud, refusing to give up. Her tiny trunk flailed, and her little feet sank deeper, but she kept trying. Every now and then, she let out a soft trumpet, a sound of both fear and hope, hoping her mother could somehow pull her out. The mother elephant adjusted her position again, pressing her weight against the muddy edge and lowering her trunk deeper into the pit. She wrapped it carefully around her baby, feeling the small, trembling body in her grasp. She pulled gently at first, testing the resistance of the mud and the strength of her calf. The baby elephant responded, stretching her legs and lifting her trunk, trying to follow her mother's lead. It was a delicate balance between pulling too hard and not enough. One wrong move, and the baby could sink further or get hurt. Minutes passed like hours. The baby elephant's cries filled the air, echoing to the trees and over the soft hills of the reserve. Her small body struggled against the weight of the mud, her legs trembling, her trunk swinging desperately. The mother remained patient, persistent, and focused. She tested different angles, nudged the baby, and guided her movements. The baby responded as best as she could, pushing, pulling, and reaching for her mother. It was a struggle, but neither was ready to give up. The scene was a mix of chaos and hope. Birds hovered above, animals watched from a distance, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. The baby elephant, covered in mud from head to toe, lifted her head and trumpeted again, a sound that seemed to carry her hope into the sky. Her mother, equally determined, responded with a deep, comforting trumpet, a reminder that she was not alone. Together, they worked as a team, their bond stronger than the weight of the mud that trapped them. Even as the sun rose higher, casting warm light on the forest floor, the struggle continued. The baby elephant was exhausted, her small body trembling with effort, but she continued to push against the sticky mud. She had no choice but to keep trying, guided by the gentle but firm presence of her mother. Every small movement brought her a little closer to freedom, every lift of her trunk a signal of hope, every cry a plea for help that resonated through the quiet forest. The mother elephant never left her side. She adjusted, pulled, nudged, and guided. She pressed her massive body against the mud pit, tried to give her baby the leverage she needed. The baby, now starting to catch on, used her tiny trunk to brace herself against the edge and push upward, learning the rhythm and trusting her mother's guidance. It was a teamwork the forest had never witnessed so closely, a dance of trust, instinct, and love. Minutes felt like hours. The baby elephant's energy was waning, and she began to tremble from the effort. Yet she continued, responding to the subtle cues from her mother. Her small trunk stretched, touching her mother for reassurance, and her legs pushed as best as they could. Each tiny victory, a little shift of her body, a small lift of her foot, was celebrated silently by the mother, who trumpeted softly, encouraging her to continue. The mud pit was stubborn, clinging tightly to the baby's legs and making every movement a challenge. The mother moved carefully, ensuring her own footing was secure while trying to pull the calf free. She nudged rocks and pushed the edges of the pit, attempting to create a small space for the baby to lift herself. The calf, now starting to catch on, used her tiny trunk to brace herself against the edge and push upward, learning the rhythm and trusting her mother's guidance. Exhaustion threatened to overcome the baby, but her mother's presence kept her fighting. The soft, familiar warmth of her mother's trunk reminded her that she was not alone, giving her the strength to push again and again. Her small calls, filled with both fear and hope, echoed across the forest, and her mother's rumbling trumpets answered back, steady and reassuring. They were in perfect sync, a living example of instinct and maternal love working together. Step by step, Push by push, the baby elephant began to lift herself out of the mud. Her legs still sank slightly with each movement, but she had started to rise. Her small trunk waved for balance, her tiny eyes glistening with effort, yet filled with trust in her mother. The mother stayed beside her, gently pushing, lifting, and guiding, ensuring that every movement was safe. It was a slow, steady climb, but it was progress, and with progress came hope. The baby elephant's movements became more coordinated. She learned to push her legs carefully, to lift her trunk for balance, and to respond to her mother's guidance. The mud still clung stubbornly, but she had started to rise, one small step at a time. Her soft calls grew quieter, more from effort than fear, as she gained confidence. Her mother's comforting presence, her firm yet gentle trunk, and her unwavering determination gave the calf the courage to continue. As the baby elephant continued her effort, lifting and pushing, trusting the steady presence of her mother, each small movement brought her closer to the edge of the pit. Each gentle nudge from her mother encouraged her to keep going. The struggle was still ongoing, but hope was growing. The forest, alive with the sounds of the morning, seemed to hold its breath, witnessing the incredible determination of a mother and her baby as they faced the challenge together. Soon, the loud cries reached the ears of wildlife rangers patrolling nearby. They rushed toward the sounds, their hearts pounding at the thought of a young elephant trapped and in danger. When they arrived, they were met with a scene of both tension and awe. The baby was half submerged in the thick mud, trembling and exhausted, while her mother stood protectively beside her, refusing to leave her side. The rangers knew they had to act carefully. The mother greeted the humans with loud, deep trumpets, warning them to stay back. She was clearly distressed, and the rangers stayed at a respectful distance, assessing the mud pit and looking for safe ways to help without scaring either elephant. They used long ropes and sturdy branches to gently guide the baby toward the edge, placing wooden logs along the side to create some leverage. The baby hesitated at first, but focused on her mother's trunk, pushing and pulling with more coordinated effort. The mother continued to be the guiding force, wrapping her trunk carefully around her baby's small body, nudging her gently toward the logs and ropes. She tested the edges of the pit, pressing with her massive feet to give her baby better footing. The calf responded, learning quickly to trust both her mother and the new assistants. Every movement was delicate. Too much force could sink her further, but the teamwork slowly started to make progress.